since the moment you took that stage yesterday to right now, what's the funniest thing that's happened to you out there?
You know, I don't know about funniest, but I'd say the coolest thing was how well my girls did. The announcement was at Liberty. There were 12,000 screaming college kids there, and the girls are 4 and 6. And Heidi and I were really nervous. You know, 4 and 6-year-old girls don't necessarily do well with a roaring auditorium. We did a practice the day before. We tried to get them ready, and they did phenomenal. I was blown away. Caroline was high-fiving people up there. I was really proud that they didn't freak out and run off the stage at all the noise, and they did awesome.
They were, like both their parents, full of poise yesterday. It was quite great to see. Is there anything about this process that you, for all your poise, find intimidating?
Oh, look, I mean, this takes your breath away. I mean, you can't help but be in awe of having the opportunity to run for President of the United States, to potentially lead the greatest country in the history of the world at a time of enormous threat. I mean, I can tell you, serving in the Senate, I mean, there's not a day that I don't wake up astonished to be where I am.
Now, some of your colleagues feel the same.
Or even more astonished that I'm where I am.
Yeah.
So that marks, like, they're referring to the question of whether it's anything that's intimidating about running for president. I'm curious about whether there's anything about the office of the presidency, the notion that you could be the president. What's intimidating to you about that?
Anyone who is not taken aback at the awesome responsibility of, number one, defending this country. The principal responsibility of the president is to be the commander-in-chief, to defend this nation. We are in a more and more dangerous world, and I think by 2017 it is only going to have gotten more dangerous after that. Anyone who the weight of that responsibility doesn't weigh on your shoulders contemplating it is not, frankly, fit to contemplate the office.
Let me move you to some news a day as busy as they are. I know you know the Wall Street Journal reported today that Israel spied on the United States. Allies spy on each other all the time. But let me ask you, if you were president, as president, would you tolerate Israel spying on the United States, and would you have the United States spy on Israel?
Well, actually, my understanding of the story is that they reported that Israel spied on Iran.
No, they said they spied on the United States as well.
And at the end of the day, it's an interesting thing that in the course of these negotiations, we're apparently communicating the terms of the negotiations with Russia, with other countries, but not with Israel.
I agree, but I just want to get you to my question, which is, again, would you tolerate Israel spying on the United States, and would you have the United States spy on Israel if you were president?
At the end of the day, it is no surprise to anybody that countries engage in espionage and defend their own national security interests.
So you would continue to spy on Israel as the United States apparently does now?
At the end of the day, what every country is going to do is defend their national security interests. I'll say this, Israel lives in a very tough neighborhood. And if one thing sadly has been clear in the Obama administration, it's that they have real reason to be concerned this administration won't stand with them.
Senator, I want to play a little sound right now in the wall. There was only one, I believe, of the other potential Republican 2016 candidates who had some comments about your announcement yesterday. Let's take a look at that and get your reaction.
Great.
There'll be a lot of conservatives. Ted Cruz is a conservative, but it also goes to winnability, and people will have to make a decision which is the Republican that can not only excite the base, but can also bring new people into the party without giving up principles.
Beyond the question of the unusual use of the phrase winnability, or the use of term winnability, what do you have to say to Rand Paul and that critique?
Oh, listen, Rand Paul is a good friend of mine. I like and respect him. We have fought side by side for liberty. I expect we'll continue to fight side by side for liberty.
The core of what he's saying up there is that he's done more to reach out to non-base Republican voters than you have. Do you accept that criticism? And if not, what's your counter-argument?
If we're going to win, we've got to reassemble the Reagan coalition. We've got to bring together conservatives and libertarians and evangelicals and women and Hispanics and young people and Reagan Democrats. And I'll tell you that has been one of the most incredible things that we've seen. Number one, when I ran for Texas, we saw that coalition come together. I got 40% of the Hispanic vote in the state of Texas in 2012. At the same time, Mitt Romney was getting clobbered with 27% of Hispanics nationwide. And our coalition at the grassroots level was breathtaking, and it was driven by young people and across the breadth. That's what we got to do to win.
I got to stop you. Just want to get another question in here before we got to go. Goldman Sachs, on balance, are they a force in our society, positive force or negative force on balance?
Oh, like any institution, there's some of both.
So what's the negative?
You know, my view of Wall Street or big business in general.
I want you to talk specifically about Goldman Sachs.
But look, Goldman is one of the biggest banks on Wall Street, and my criticism with Washington is they engage in crony capitalism. They give favors to Wall Street and big business, and that's why I've been an outspoken opponent of crony capitalism, taking on leaders in both parties. I think big business, if they're building a better mousetrap, great, but it shouldn't be government favoring them. Let me give an example. Dodd-Frank, sold to the American people as stopping too big to fail. What happened? The big banks have gotten bigger. Goldman has gotten bigger because the massive burdens of Dodd-Frank.
But why is Goldman then a negative force? Because they get government help?
Because, like many other players on Wall Street and big business, they seek out and get special favors from government. I think they're entitled to practice their business, but without subsidies or special benefits.
You did a lovely job of talking about your wife Heidi's biography, and as a baker, you didn't mention her working for Goldman Sachs. Are you unabashedly proud of what you did at Goldman?
I am unabashedly proud of everything about Heidi. And I mentioned she's had an incredibly successful business career. So I did, in fact, mention that. And she is... You know, I have to say, a lot of times the caricatures of Republicans, they don't fit with the fact that I've got an amazingly brilliant, educated, successful professional woman who is my best friend in the world and my partner in everything we do.
Let me get a quick one in here at the end. A bunch of people yesterday saw your announcement speech, compared you to the current president of the United States, including some Republicans. How does it feel to you? What's your reaction to being called a Republican Obama?
Well, listen, if people aren't throwing rocks at you, it means you're not doing anything.
I think they meant it in a nice way.
You know, what I would say is I think there are at least two sharp differences between Obama and me. Number one, when he was in the Senate, he was largely a backbencher. In my time in the Senate, you can accuse me of many things, but being a backbencher ain't one of them. I've tried to lead on the great issues of the day and the challenges. That's what Republican primary voters are looking for. And number two, before I was in the Senate, I wasn't a community organizer like Obama. I was the Solicitor General of Texas and represented Texas, winning some of the biggest conservative fights in the country before the U.S. Supreme Court.